Thanks, Fred Undead. There's no audio because I was muted. How about now, everybody? God, I was just talking so good. I was just so good at talking, and it was all for naught because I forgot to push the button. What I was saying is that I don't feel so great today. My is there still no audio? Still no audio? Still no audio? Hello? This is what my voice sounds like. No. No audio? Really? StartRec can hear me, and that's all that matters. So thanks for chiming in there, StartRec. Great. Audio is important in a video streaming format. Sorry about that. What I was saying is, this is the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. We're not doing any games today. We're all guests, all talk all the time, which is very exciting. I'm just doing a little bit of posting here in the comments section in case anybody's coming in. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. We're live at JeremyInternational.com. If you would like to seek advice from me, your host, Jeremy International, you can head on over to JeremyInternational.com and there's a contact form there that you can use to contact me with your questions. And we'll do our best. I got a couple guests today. In the first hour, I have a very good friend of mine, fascinating, interesting, very upbeat, positive energy person, Leila Hernandez. Leila Hernandez is a lot of things to me and to you, and I'm excited to have her on. And then the second hour, we're going to have my oldest friend, probably the person I talk to at least semi-regularly, who is still a person that I know for over 20 years. Gertz will be joining us, and we're going to have a good time too. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest. Let me make sure I unmute her so that I don't goof again. And our first guest is Leila Hernandez. Thanks for joining us. Woo, look at that transition.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Leila. Thanks so much for carving time out of your busy life to hang out with us on the advice stream today. How you doing, Leila? How you doing?
I am all the emotions at the surface. I was in a Zoom AA meeting right before this, so I'm literally just like on the verge of tears for this whole hour. So I think we're gonna have a lot of fun.
I'd imagine so. It's interesting you say that because the type of health stuff I'm going through today is also just like emotionally taxing on me. I feel like I've been on the verge of tears all day, not necessarily just on the verge. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe this will be a very emotional, very special episode of the advice stream with Jeremy International.
For you and I, who were kids of the 80s, to now say that we can be in our own very special episode,
Oh yeah,
I think is pretty big deal.
An extremely special episode. We're getting a bunch of highs. This is one of the things I'm always cautious about, Leila, with the stream is, so people are watching live from a bunch of different places. And like on Facebook, it's your real name and someone comments and I see who they are. But like on Twitch, for example, everyone has screen names. So even though some of the screen names come up and I know who it is, their name doesn't indicate who they are. So I'm not going to say that person's name because I feel like that's appropriate. But I'll say there's a few people on Twitch that know you, that have said hi, and they're excited to see you. So
love my
nice.
Twitch fans.
Yeah.
I don't even know what Twitch is. Love you, Twitch fans. Love you, Twitch fam.
Twitch is where people stream all kinds of live nonsense. And, it's a lot of video game people, but it's not always video games that people are doing. Like, we're on Twitch right now. We're not going to play video games today. Yeah. Although I normally do. I don't have a lot of video game time during the week. So one of the origins of me doing this is like, well, that's at least an hour a week I get to play video games. But I was thinking, you know what else I don't get to do a lot during the week that I wish I did was to hang out with my friends. So why don't we change this and make it so instead of playing video games by myself in front of a live studio audience for an hour, why don't I hang out with my friends for 2 hours? And that's a good way to kind of catch up with people. The only problem, of course, is that it's public, and it'll be recorded and it's on the internet, so it'll be there forever.
I think this is what the world needs. The world needs conversations, that of real life, of what we're going through, of your friends, people and putting it out there in the world. This is exactly what the world needs right
Good.
now,
I'm
Jeremy.
glad. I'm glad you agree. I'm glad you agree. So I hope it's okay. One of the things that I said in the show description is that you and I were going to talking about mental health, because that's one of the things that I always admire about you so much, and I think part of my self-development journey over the last several years has been me being more honest with myself and with other people about my physical health. And physical health and mental health are not two different things. And so I've always looked up to you for how open and like candid you are with your journey. And I just wanted to say in this very public forum that I've always really respected and appreciated that about you. It takes a lot of guts to be honest with yourself, let alone other people, and you do that so well.
Um, Thank you. Oh, Jeremy, thank you. Why don't we ever talk like this in person?
I know.
That's the most beautiful thing like possible to hear. That is the ultimate compliment. Like I'm not gonna have to wait long to bring up the Kleenex. That was really lovely. Thank you.
Well, we always do an unofficial sponsor for the advice stream, so let's go ahead and say that this week's unofficial sponsor is Kleenex, because we might be using that a lot. It's a very valuable product. Big fan.
Use promo code Leila's Breakdown to get 10% off your next box of Kleenex.
Yeah. Just for the record, Kleenex doesn't know about that, so maybe the code will work. Doesn't hurt to try. I don't know where you type it in necessarily. Kleenex.com maybe has a promo code deal. I don't know, but try it out. Let us know if it works. And if anyone at Kleenex is watching out there, I'm always looking. If you want someone that will encourage people to use Kleenex in various ways, I'm your guy. I don't read too much into that though.
Kleenex, it's for the good times and the bad.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, why don't we start with something happy, if that's okay? On the advice stream, when we have guests, I always say we, but it's just me, but we'll say we anyways. I always ask people to bring something in their lives that makes them happy right now. That often is our unofficial sponsor, but I don't think you can beat Kleenex. And by the way, we talked about this several days ago, and I didn't bring it up again. You've been busy. If you forgot, that's totally fine.
My eyeballs are.
I saw you doing that, and it's totally fine if you didn't remember the assignment. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, man. Something that.
What's the last really great thing you ate?
Oh.
It's oftentimes people's thing that makes them happy is food.
Dude, it was coronation weekend, so I went to Trader Joe's and bought a lot of crumpets on Friday. So the last thing I ate, it's been taking a while to get through those crumpets, and so like a toasted warm crumpet with butter.
Oh, that sounds good. How is a crumpet different? How is a crumpet different than an English muffin, though?
A crumpet is like a thick pancake with holes. I know some people might describe English muffins as having nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
But like crumpets, the holes go all the way to almost the bottom.
Oh, interesting. They go all the way through.
Yeah. So you know how like when you're making pancakes, like you see holes?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay, but in a crumpet there are holes. I think that's what I would say the difference is. It's a big thick pancake with big glacial crevices, and you fill those crevices.
That
I fill
sounds
mine with
great.
butter.
I really what I want right now is pancakes. Let's
And
make
how
more
do you top your
pancakes.
pancakes?
Butter and sometimes maple syrup, sometimes cinnamon sugar, but mostly maple syrup. But like
But you,
real maple syrup.
but you do the butter and maple syrup combo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. I feel like clog my arteries and give me the diabetes. I want the both at once. I feel if either of those two are missing, then I'm not getting the proper
Yeah, I
pancake
agree.
experience.
But like I like pancakes so much, and I'm so terrified of heart disease and diabetes because everyone in my family has it, and also my endocrine system comes out of a bottle these days. So I just do a little bit. Like if it's real maple syrup, a little bit goes a long way. If it's like the corn sugar with brown food coloring in it, that you got to have a lot of. But if it's real, we're having such a good time. I've been neglecting the chat. Eichel, who is a long time, I actually don't know Eichel personally, but is a longtime fan of the show, says that they prefer French toast. I'll be honest with you, Eichel. I love pancakes. French toast is a very, very close second for me. I love a good French toast. I like French toast. Now, hear me out. Slice of cheddar cheese in the middle. I know.
And then
Blows your
you'll still
mind.
put syrup on
Cinnamon sugar.
shit
that's
and syrup.
that's how my bubby made it, and I still love it to this day. I don't know anyone. I've never heard anyone else do it. But like some people put a slice of cheddar cheese on top of apple pie.
Yeah, and they enjoy burning in hell. They're having fun down there.
Well, let me tell you, if putting cheddar cheese on apple pie is what gets you to hell, then none of us have a chance of not going to hell. So, because that seems like a pretty low level crime there, if you ask me.
Man, breakfast food makes me happy.
Yeah, me
Like,
too. My go-to comfort breakfast is because this is was oftentimes a breakfast when I was a kid is Eggos,
yeah.
Morning Star patties, and butter and real maple syrup. That's a good. That makes me happy. That warms my innards. That reminds me of good things of being a kid,
Mm.
for sure.
Then enjoy it, man.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Don't deny
Oh,
it.
breakfast is great.
Yeah, and look and do it the Jeremy International way. Moderation, friends. Moderate.
Moderation, everything. When if the only things that you should never touch are the things that by their very nature you can't enjoy in moderation. That stuff you should stay away from, like heroin, for example. I don't think you
Heroin.
can do heroin in moderation.
If I had a little heroin, I think I would want all the
Yeah, I
heroin.
think I would too. So I don't
Yeah.
do it. Just say
Like
no.
when Russell Brand talks about heroin, I'm like, that's exactly how I wish I could feel. Like
Yeah.
I want that like zonked out euphoria. Like not to just like segue, but when you live with anxiety and or depression, you're just like zonked out euphoria sounds amazing. Give me some of that.
Yeah, um I understand that, and like good for you for being able to recognize how dangerous that is. I mean, I guess the good news is we're both middle aged. We have kids. We live outside of a major city. I wouldn't even begin to guess how to get heroin if I wanted it. I don't
Oh,
know anybody. I don't know anybody that knows anybody anymore.
that's too much
So
work.
that's too much work. You got to go outside. You got to meet new people.
If I can't get it on cost or on Amazon and like easily on Amazon, like I want Amazon to tell me this is like Amazon's choice of heroin, like
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
easy I need to be able to find it, then I'm never gonna find it.
Absolutely. Or if it's like one of those like people that are just some guy that's selling stuff through Amazon, no, I don't do that. If it's something I really want, I'll go, no way. That's too much work.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's risky. Start Rec, who is someone that says subscribe and save, which is how Amazon gets you. I'm trying to cut back on Amazon, but it's just so convenient, and I hate driving. And we live in a place where you got to drive everywhere to buy anything, and it's terrible.
Yeah, for the sake of like society, I know I shouldn't use Amazon. I know for the sake of society, I need to mom and pop shop everything, but there are only 24 usable hours in a
Yeah.
day, and Amazon gets me. Like, I don't know if you watched the 1619 Project documentary on Hulu,
Mm-mm.
there's one episode that really intelligently like puts together from picking cotton to being an Amazon warehouse picker.
Oh my
They
God.
literally have that
Yeah.
position title of picker at Amazon warehouses. And the correlation of the two, it hurts me. It hurts me. And so like now I think of that every time. Like I recently got a pillow that I could sit up, in bed
Yeah.
pillow. I went to Amazon to get it and I'm like, man, a picker has got to pick this. And I hate myself that I am now part of the system, but I really needed that pillow.
Yeah, I understand. It's hard to be good in the world, I guess. It's really hard. And it takes a lot of time and money to be like a morally upstanding person. And those aren't things that you or me or anybody I know has a lot of extra of.
Man, that is it.
Yeah.
That is it. It takes time and money to be the kind of ethical person I want to be in this
Yeah.
world. That you nailed it. Nailed it, Jeremy.
It's hard to do. But, I guess the point is that you got to try and do your best when you can. Um, the sad thing is not a lot of mom and pop businesses where where I live. It was too late. There was when I lived in the city. There was for sure. Almost every place I went to was owned by people that at least lived nearby, and it's not how it works when you leave a city. I used to do this. I'm sorry to go off on a tangent. Just speaking of like morality. Long time ago, I was in a serious way before I met you. I was in a serious relationship with someone that lived in a small rural town in Missouri. We used to go visit her family all the time, and her family would always like passive aggressively talk about how people that lived in the city like me don't care about each other, and we don't look out for each other the way that people in small towns or the country do. And I got sick of hearing that once, and I said, where did your grandfather go if he wanted to buy a steak? And he's like, oh, I remember when I was little, there was a butcher shop around the corner. And I'm like, what happened to that butcher shop? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, did it go away around the time that, I don't like Walmart or what was here before Walmart, the Kmart or whatever came in? Because they came in, they offered your grandfather, 75 cents on the dollar or whatever. And he put his neighbor out of business for a quarter or whatever, a relatively small amount of money. And now that guy is gone. He doesn't have a business anymore. Maybe his kids work at that Walmart for poverty wages.
Thank
And
you.
that's what your community is now. So who's looking out for who?
And did that shut them up?
Yeah, there was a million. Like I had to explain to one of her family members what the Holocaust was. He didn't know, and it shut him up. There was a lot of those. I'm not going to get into those conversations, but because people like that never are asked to defend their views. They're never expected to have a conversation. So all you have to do is start a conversation, and then they get angry and they shut up. Although nowadays they probably get angry and shoot you because that seems to be what America is all about these days. We usually talk about things that make us happy on the advice stream, Leila. Or at least
Leila ruined the stream.
I know I did. That was all me, 100%. I'm in a bad mood. I'm going through some stuff today.
Here on the lighter note. Okay, so like when you said that we could talk about my favorite topic of conversation, which is mental health.
Please.
I made some columns.
Ooh.
One column is addiction, one column is like diagnoses I've had in my life, and another column is trauma.
Okay.
And I think it would be pretty funny to talk about some of my addictions.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna let you make that funny though. I'm not gonna make jokes on my own. And it doesn't have to, just be clear, it doesn't have to be funny. We can't only talk about things that make us happy, but we should talk about positive things and growth and change. That's important.
Life is both. This is what I have learned in therapy, is that life is both at the same time.
Yeah.
Like life is hard. And I was just crying at my AA meeting just now right before this, but life is also, it's kind of hilarious. So, okay. So yeah, alcohol. There's that one. I made a list. Alcohol, Klonopin, NyQuil. Yeah, it's funny because like I guess in my brain it was going to be funny. Okay, so maybe that wasn't the funniest of the
NyQuil's
follow.
mostly alcohol anyways, right? So I feel like that's the same. That's the same one. I've definitely drank stuff from a bar that tasted indistinguishable from NyQuil.
Oh man, remember Purple Passion? Did you ever have Purple Passion in the 90s?
I don't think so. First off, I spent a lot of the 90s in a hospital bed, so I didn't really get to party until after 2000, 2001, really.
That's okay. I mean, the 2000 parties were good too.
Yeah. And by
So,
then it was, it was more age appropriate for me. So,
age appropriate. And we had the internet. So like it was better anyways. You weren't missing anything from the
uh-huh.
90s. It was like the parties of the 2000, but being underage and without the internet.
Yeah. Gross.
All right. But so it okay. Here's what's funny. John Mulaney. Did you watch his most recent
I
special?
watched most of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I saw the part about his intervention and it was very funny. He's a very funny guy.
What I wanted from that, as someone who has struggled with addictions, I wanted him to go into the why. I wanted to know why he like fell off the bandwagon and got back into the cocaine and Klonopin. He talks about Klonopin. I
Uh-huh.
have so much in common with John Mulaney. And that's what I felt was missing from that special. I wanted to know why it all fell apart and how did it affect those like
Yeah.
your loved ones around you. And he didn't go into that. It was kind of, I don't mean to criticize John Mulaney. I'm a big fan, John. If you're watching, if
Hi,
you're
John.
like on Twitch right now, John Mulaney, I'm a big fan, but I wanted the why. I
Yeah.
wanted to know why he felt he had to self-medicate and why his life fell apart. And that's what I did not get from that.
What I really enjoyed that, and I enjoy him in general. I feel like I mean, I'm not a stand-up comedian. I've spent a lot of time making people laugh for money, but not in this particular way. And I don't know. I was hoping I didn't see it all, and maybe he does later, but none of the parts that I saw is him being real. He's just kind of making jokes. And that's his job. He's a stand-up comedian. Maybe he's not in a place where he can be real on stage in front of a million people or on Netflix for a billion people or whatever. It's a hard thing to do. But I was hoping for like for there to be a turn and for him to get real for a minute. And he didn't.
He didn't, and you're not missing anything. I'm not, spoiler alert, he does not get real at the end. He literally reads a GQ interview that he did when he was high as a kite on cocaine. And I'm like, you're just reading an interview. That's you're reading your own interview
I
to an
know.
audience, and you're getting paid a lot of money from Netflix to do that.
So Eichel in the chat I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Eichel
No,
on the
it's
chat
fine.
on Twitch says that he's actually done some podcasts where he's gone into why, and he's been real in other venues apparently. So I guess we need to look at Eichel, if you can remember which podcast that was and throw that in the chat. I'd love to know because I root for that guy. I like him. I think he's funny, and he just seems like a good dude to an extent. But you're famous and you go through a struggle and you have a certain obligation to make it real for people. I would actually say, and this is one of the things that I think we're doing here, Leila, is even if you're not famous, if you go through a struggle, if you're able to, you have an obligation to be real about it with other people so people don't feel like they're suffering on their own. Or maybe if someone's suffering in a similar way, that, in being honest, you might maybe can shorten their suffering a little bit and, encourage people to get help or to be real. I my struggle has not been with addiction, although I think I've brushed up against it a few times in my life. But the types of health issues I have aren't things people generally share or talk about, or when they do, they don't do it in a very honest way. Eichel says, I've only listened to him talk to Theo Vaughn, who is also an addict, but I'm sure he's promoted all over with plenty of podcasts. So we should go look for, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You listen to a podcast with John Mulaney on it and you have a good time, even if he doesn't talk about what you want him to. So that's good. I'm a big fan of Dana Carvey and David Spade's podcast. That's really good. Just like comedians talking about comedy podcasts. It's a good one.
Yeah, that one came out of the pandemic, right? They didn't have a podcast
Yeah, I
before the
don't think they
pandemic,
did.
right?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I discovered it just a few weeks ago, and it's a good one. I don't know if John Mulaney's been on. If he was, definitely not the type of podcast where he would get real and share his demons with people. Uh,
I think demons can be hilarious. Like, what's more real than like the things that make me cry?
yeah.
I just love that stuff. But I guess not everyone loves that stuff, right? I am okay. Here's another thing that's
Okay.
on the list to
Let's go.
I swear it relates. Okay. Under my diagnoses column. So things I have actually been diagnosed with from a professional therapist.
Hmm.
Um Historically in my life, I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety, severe depression, and a thing called adjustment disorder. Okay, so those are things I've gotten diagnosis about or
Uh-huh.
of. I'm wondering if I am neurodiverse because I think a lot of things are upsetting to me that are not upsetting to normal, sorry, not normal, neuro mainstream, that's the right word, people. So I wonder if things that I think are traumas and that make me cry and that are really upsetting aren't really upsetting to other people. And then that makes me sad because it makes me hate my brain and like, well, why couldn't I get a brain that
Yeah.
doesn't isn't so sad and scared of everything?
What can I ask? What's the thing that you find upsetting that you in your experience you see that other people don't?
Oh man, and I know if there's any mothers on this,
There's a
watching,
couple, I'm
let me
sure.
wait. Um, oh, I got the tissues ready. Pregnancy,
Hmm.
pregnancy and giving birth. I am jealous of anyone who loved it, who thrived in it, and can be very present in it. I was so nauseous and so miserable and anxious throughout pregnancy, and it did not get better once that baby came on the other side of me.
Yeah.
um it I am grateful that I got out of it sober. I'm grateful that I got sober before pregnancy because I was looking for anything to just like
Yeah.
comfort myself
Ugh.
physically and mentally and emotionally. And I am jealous of people who thrive on creating life.
I I'm not a person that can have a baby or that has had a baby. I've witnessed one birth very closely because
Very closely.
my partner we have a kid. And and I hope that I'm not talking out of turn as a non-uterus haver, but I would bet real money that most of the people that present themselves publicly as saying this was great and I loved every second of it and it was magical or whatever they're fibbing a little bit, I think. Because that's this has at least been the brunt of my mental health journey over the last several years is we have this expectation of how we're supposed to act when we go through some big life event. I I had cancer a few years ago, and I very much felt that there was an expectation of people around me to act in a specific way and to be positive and to brush it off and say it's no big deal and I'm fine and I'm going to get through it and whatever. Like people have there's all of this pressure to act in a certain way. Nowhere is that more real than on women that are about to have a baby. There's all of these expectations. So people act the way that they feel like they're supposed to act when the reality of what they're feeling is oftentimes very different than that. And I can certainly say that I was, it wasn't until, I don't know, 2 years after most of my cancer treatment was done that I was able to real talk about how I felt about it. I was angry. I was pissed off. I was scared. I was frustrated, but I was mostly angry. And no one says that you're supposed to be angry. That's not a feeling. You're supposed to be brave. You're supposed to brush it off. You're supposed to say, someone else had it worse than me. Of course, someone else has it worse than you. that's how the world works. That doesn't mean that you don't get to have feelings. It doesn't mean that you don't get to suffer also. Fred Undead in the chat says, first off, that she is always happy to talk to you, Leila, about, and it's one of the things also that I think is really amazing about Fred Undead is was always real talk about her journey in pregnancy. She says there's a thing called the halo effect, where when they got the baby in your arms and everything negative gets repressed, it's a real thing. And also, one of the biggest reasons why people have more than one kid is because they choose to forget. Yeah, I think that sometimes happens too. One of those cliches is like time heals all wounds. Not really. Some wounds don't ever heal. Or like the one that I used to really believe in is like whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's what they say.
Not always. Yeah, not always. Sometimes the thing that doesn't kill you fucks you up for the rest of your life, and you just got to deal with it, and it sucks. But you're alive, and that's something.
Who were you angry at during your treatment? Or what were you angry at?
I had been really, really sick as a teenager, and in my early 20s, I almost didn't make it a couple times. And in the second hour, my friend Gertz will be here, and they were there when I was going through all of that. They were witness to it. And I felt like I had my time. I'd done my time in having a medical crisis and just having to do very similar things all over again. There wasn't anyone, I don't believe in God. If I did, I would have been angry, I guess, at him. I wasn't angry at any person. I was just angry at the universe because lots of people get cancer. Lots of people get better. Lots of people don't. But I had already done my time in a hospital bed, and I had already done my time in countless doctor offices getting scanned and tested and everything. And I knew the minute I got that diagnosis, all I could think of was, I'm going to do all of these things again. I have to do it all. I'm going to be in the hospital. I'm going to be in an operating room. I'm going to have to go to the doctor, 3 times a week for months on end. And I just didn't want to do it.
Man, but you did it. And I'm sorry I wasn't present enough and in a right mental state that I could have even reached out. Like, I felt like Jeremy is going through this. Do we not talk about it? Do we talk about it? Like,
Yeah.
I remember those years. I was not sober then, and I remember.
And there were very, very few people that I wanted around. Like when I was sick in my 20s, I wanted all my friends to come by and visit me in the hospital. I wanted to like socialize. And that was a mistake for me. That was a mistake for them because I was dying and no one should have seen me in that case. And so I knew I was way less sick, of course, when I had cancer. Excuse me. And but I didn't want to. It's just I don't like to see people with tubes coming out of their body, and I didn't want anyone to have to see me that way. It's interesting, when you're going through, and I'm sure this happens when you have a baby also, and everyone's like, let me know if there's anything I can do. And everyone says that. I say that. I've said that to a million people. A million people have said it to me. And that's such a useless thing to say. Like, I would like someone to come to me with, if I need help, if I'm going through a crisis, I want someone to come up with a list, like a checklist. And they say, these are the services I can offer you. Check 1. This is what I can do. You need someone to pick you up from the doctor's office. You need someone to make you dinner. You need someone to hold a punching bag with a picture of your thyroid gland on it so you can punch it for an hour. Like, these are the services I am able to provide for you. Check, you can pick any 3 and we'll do it. Like that's obviously very difficult to do, and no one does that. No one will do that. But when you're going through a crisis, the let me know if there's anything I can do is just so is dumb. I wish people didn't do it. I wish I didn't do it, but I do it.
No, but you've just given us a great alternative. Like, how can we normalize the checklist?
Yeah.
The checklist of services I can provide. And all someone has to do is say the word like crisis or pain. I don't know what the magic word is, but if they say those words to me, I will bring out the checklist. Here is the checklist. Food. Do you want food? Do
Yeah.
you want cleaning? Do you want to talk about it? You don't have to talk about it, or we can totally talk about it.
Or talk
You
about
want
anything else.
to talk about anything
Yeah.
else? Do you want to talk about reality? You want to talk about the latest that's going on with Meghan Markle and the royal family? Like, yes. Do you want to completely be distracted? I am up for that.
Yeah.
Let's normalize the checklist, Jeremy. That is
The
great advice.
the
Mention
help
that on
menu.
every episode of the stream forever.
I'll print it. I'll put my name on it, and we'll make lots of money. Yeah, going back a couple minutes, Fred Undead in the chat on Twitch says, imagine thinking birth is magical. Laughing my ass off, she says. I am a.
Okay. I'm going to show an object. I didn't show an object.
I mean, while you're doing that, Leila, I'll just say to Fred Undead, I mean, if there's anything that's magical in the universe, making a human being from nothing is pretty magical. It doesn't mean that it's easy or not traumatic and doesn't mess you up for the rest of your life. It can be both, but I'd say if magic exists in this world, making a human inside your body out of like the cheeseburgers and pizza that you eat is pretty magical. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be terrifying and gross and traumatic for everybody.
It is the worst magic trick. It is the grossest, most traumatizing magic trick. Forget pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Right, I know. Oh boy.
Eat us out of crotch.
Yeah.
Or wherever. Okay, one more sad thing and then okay. How sad is this? My baby's first year.
I have a feeling I know what's going to be in there.
I get nothing, right?
Yeah.
How far did I get? I signed it like to me from me. Lots of love, hugs and kisses from me. And then that's it. I wrote her name. There's my baby's name. Photo yet. Because I'm a person who I'm very into nostalgia. I like having a record of my life, like of every moment of my life. Again, why I think I'm neurodiverse. I'm obsessively into nostalgia. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, I'm going to make it as I go through the first year of my baby's life. The first year of my baby's life was not one of my best years on record. Like, the drugs alone, thank you for modern medicine. Like I started pregnancy on Prozac. Like, that was before I got pregnant. And then after pregnancy, I transitioned from Prozac to Lexapro and Wellbutrin, like, just to keep me alive.
Yeah.
So I could like eat and sleep and function as a human being. So working on my baby book was not a priority of that year. So I laugh at it. I can laugh at it now, but boy, did I have high hopes. And you know what? It's homework. I'm gonna get back
you can still. I'm sure you got a picture from that first year somewhere, one or two.
Sure, yeah, they're just up on the cloud somewhere.
Yeah, you'll get around to it later. When she's in college, you can do it.
But yeah, that's I people who choose to forget that experience so that they can have more, bless them, bless all of you. Thank you for continuing the species, but I'm done. I wish I could forget it. Yeah. I wish I could.
It's interesting. I remember when I spent months on end. I think the longest stretch, I think I spent 3 months in the hospital once and went home, and then like a week later had to go back for another 3 months. What I remember though is time doesn't matter in the hospital. What was I going to do? Have to go to work the next day? And, this is early 2000s, so the internet was around, but not like in the hospital. And so I just had like broadcast TV. And one of the things, Leila, that you and I bond over so much was one of the things that was always on for hours at night at 3 o'clock in the morning on whatever channel was Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And I was one of the highlights. And when I was in the hospital, I was Deep Space Nine overnight, and then my when they realized that I was going to be in the hospital for a long time, there was a Toys R Us close by. My mom went to the Toys R Us. I was 20. My mom went to the Toys R Us and said, "My son's in the hospital. He doesn't have anything to do. He's bored. What do you have?" She did not tell them how old I was. So they sold her Game Boy Color and the very first Pokemon game, and I still play Pokemon to this day. I had no idea what it was, but it was the only thing for me to do. And so Star Trek and Pokemon is what I feel like, at least at this point in my life, I've forgotten most of that experience. And I just remember being able to lay in bed all night long and watch all the Star Trek I wanted and play all the Pokemon I wanted.
But also, my mind at like Deep Space Nine is like the darkest of all the Treks,
Yeah,
and so like you were watching a pretty dark Trek, like
yeah.
but you're like, you know what? At least I'm not at war with the Dominion right now, so I guess my
I
life
guess
isn't that
that's
bad.
okay. Also, I don't know. You and I are of a similar age group, so maybe this is something that you've seen or remember. But there was a very shortly lived animated Clerks cartoon that was also always on at 2 or 3 or whatever in the morning when I was there. And that show, I loved. It was so funny to me in those days. Probably haven't seen it in many years. Probably hasn't held up very well, I would imagine.
Okay, have you seen the Kevin Smith 30-minute video about his mental break?
No, I
And
don't think I have.
okay, I posted it on my Facebook page a few weeks ago, or you could just like go to YouTube and type Kevin Smith mental health. And he did this 30-minute video talking about how he recently had like a complete mental break and checked himself into a mental health facility. And like he's talking about trauma that he had repressed. He's talking about the work that he did to like get better, um and at the end of it he says, not the end of it, but at one point he says, "I'm not smoking pot anymore." He's like, "I know that's going to make a lot of you mad. You think that's like my persona, but I'm trying, I can't use substances to like cloud myself anymore." And so Kevin motherfucking Smith. Sorry, are we allowed to swear? I don't know.
There's no rules.
Like we're on broadcast TV in the 90s, right? Like right now. Yeah, so definitely tonight or tomorrow when you've got, those whole 30 minutes of free time. I got that Kevin Smith video. It hits.
Okay. I I looked up to him so much when I was younger. Trying to think if there was anybody I looked up to when I was like in my 20s that I still look up to now. Carl Sagan, always liked him. Stephen
Okay.
Jay Gould, always liked those guys. No like artists though. Not really.
My 20s. Elizabeth Gil like the end of my 20s, like when I was 28, 29, Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love got me through like I've been anxious in my life, but in my late 20s, that was the first time I had can't eat, can't sleep depression.
Okay.
Can't eat, can't sleep, like dramatically losing weight because I can't eat, and to the point where I'm like, oh no, I really need to eat an apple a day or I'm gonna die. Um, First time with depression, and that's when the book Eat, Pray, Love came into my life, which a lot of people don't know this because if they don't read it, the first third of that book is all about depression and her coming to terms with the fact that she is clinically
Hmm.
depressed, and dealing with trauma and divorce. And so I looked up to Elizabeth Gilbert. I still do. I still want to be Elizabeth Gilbert when I grow up. But yeah, I'm mentors. I want more mentors,
Yeah.
Jeremy. I feel like that'll fix me, right?
I thought about years ago, I thought about becoming a Freemason because I don't have, I
Mentors.
wish that I had more older, specifically like older men in my life. Like I have a great relationship with my dad. My dad's terrific. My dad has endless wisdom about everything. But my grandfather passed away when I was in college, and I didn't have any other like older people. Like I wanted to talk to someone that had like been in a war. Like I feel like that's wisdom. But then I was thinking about the Freemasons. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay
I'm not going to
to
pay
make.
to
I've
come
never
into
paid to make
war.
friends before. I'm not about to start now.
Yeah. Are there any like professors from college that you maybe haven't been in touch with since college, but that you could Google and find them and like
Yeah,
reconnect with?
absolutely. I could do that. And I would love to. In fact, I had a couple really great professors in college. Uh, but I want to talk to someone that's been in a war. I feel
Oh,
like I want
sorry.
to have like that type of experienced old man. And I mean, there's at least the war my grandfather fought in there, and a lot of people left that fought in that one. So
Yeah, I was gonna say our time is kind of like out for greatest generation mentors.
yeah. And I
Not to
don't
be
really
like
want to
dark,
talk to
but they're
boomers about
mostly
that
gone.
stuff.
But like, do you want some like Vietnam
Yeah,
War?
well, Stark has a good idea. I could talk to someone that was in Iraq, but like they're not old.
They're literally that was our generation's war.
Yeah, like they'd be my age or younger, depending on which time we went into Iraq.
Serious.
But
Okay,
I also have to remember, I'm not young. I'm not old, but no one would call me young. So,
we're
uh,
we're, we're middle aged,
yeah,
Jeremy. I know we have you and I both have a lot of younger friends, but we're middle
yeah,
aged.
we are. You know, a place where I would be considered young though, if I was president. Like, oh, he's a really young president. He's not 70.
I think about running for president only because I'm like, they make like $300,000 a year. You know what I could do with $300,000 a year? Like, that's how my brain works. My brain is like, okay, so to get $300,000 a year, I literally have to run for president, which I can't even do because I wasn't born in this country. So I don't
Oh,
even know
yeah,
how
you're
to get
not
a job.
allowed to.
I'm not
Could
even allowed to. At
you
least
couldn't be vice president either because I'd ask you to be my running mate then. I actually think I'd be pretty good at being president. I'm not gonna lie.
could you appoint me like I think I could be a secretary of
Yeah, what do you
something.
want to be secretary of?
I just really want,
Defense, like one of the
let's
big
be
ones.
honest. I want ambassador to the UK.
All right,
Everyone knows that's the cushiest ambassadorship. You get like the best residence in
yeah,
London.
and because
And really,
there's never gonna be a crisis between the United States and the UK.
we're gonna have to helicopter the people out from the London embassy.
Leela, I hate to do it, but we're getting close to having to take our break because I need to switch over to our second guest. I would love to have you on again to have maybe more of a structured talk about everything we've been talking about. I think I'm still figuring out how the show works. I don't know what I'm doing, and today wasn't the day for me to be very serious about this, to be honest.
You are awesome. This was a very enjoyable conversation for me. I'm gonna take from it the checklist, the Jeremy checklist. And I'm gonna remember that every time I'm in crisis or I pick up from a friend or loved one that they are crisis, I'm gonna give them the Jeremy checklist. I'm not gonna say, what can I do for you? I'm gonna say these are the services I can render. I think that's a great idea. And if that is what people take away from hour one of the stream, then bravo, my friend.
That's great. Leela, I love you so much. This has been terrific. I'm so, we hang out every week. Every week we hang out. And that's special to me. And I hope that we do it forever.
Oh
Uh,
man, I could not have gotten through some of the deepest, darkest past few years if it wasn't for you and our Sunday night crew.
yeah,
So love you, and we are connected forever.
I agree. I agree. We've been through this shit together and we came out on the other side. Maybe not better, but we came out on the other side. And
We
that's the
made it.
important part.
We made it to the other side of pandemic, and we created some humans in the process.
Yeah.
Not together, separately.
Separately. Two different humans, unrelated.
But that's pretty remarkable. And so I look forward to, I want to hear all about Gertz. Gertz is your friend for hour
Yep.
two.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I will be listening. And I thank you for your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it
Thanks so
again.
much, Leela. We'll do it again. But I'll see you, if not sooner, I'll see you on Sunday.
Yes, yeah, you will.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
There we go. That was Leila Hernandez, everybody. I don't know what I'm doing. That was fun. Leila is terrific. And we always talk about real stuff. So we're going to take a couple minute break. When we come back, we'll have our second guest, and we'll have a good time then as well. So I will see all of your beautiful chats in the comments. And just as a reminder, everyone, if you would like to seek advice, you can use the contact form at JeremyInternational.com. But I will see you in 10 minutes. forgot to unmute myself again. I did all of that for no reason. I'm not feeling so great today, guys. I'm doing my best. This is the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. If you'd like to seek advice from me or my forthcoming guest, then I fixed it. Then we go ahead and use the contact form. I get it. I'm seeing everyone's comments about no audio. I know I pushed the button and then I didn't push the button again. I wonder if I can edit this in post. Anyways, my next guest is a person I've known for over 20 years because we're old. And we've been through a lot of stuff together. And I'm so excited to have them on the show. Let me make sure that I unmute everything properly now. I mean, guest. Because I am a dumb. And now my audio is doubled. Ugh. Technology, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen and everybody else, my next guest is Gertz. Hi, Gertz. Thanks for joining us today. It has been a technological fiasco going on over here.
Okay. It's all right. Also, who are you calling old?
We were talking about this in the last hour. I am not old, but no one would call me young unless I was running for president. That is the only job that I could go where it'd be like, oh yeah, look at this young guy running for president. He's middle-aged. He's not 70.
Yeah.
All right. So Gertz, let's maybe we should start at the beginning with our time here. We met each other. Oh my gosh, it was the 90s. We met each other in the 90s. Must have been first couple weeks of college, and went to a Hillel meeting because that's the thing you do when you're Jewish and it's your first couple weeks of college. Got a lay of the land at the Hillel meeting. Both of us were like, no, except for this one person.
No, but you're cool.
Yeah, you're cool. Everybody else, no thanks. And here we are, 20 whatever years later. Still, most people aren't cool, except for us.
Yeah, fashion sense from the 90s hasn't changed much either.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure half the clothes I'm wearing now I had back then too.
Me
so.
too.
Wow, what an adventure life is. I'm trying to think of, I remember one of my fondest memories of those days is you and I went to see an Ani DeFranco concert, who I honestly didn't care about in those days, but I knew it was a big deal for you. So I went and had a blast, had a good time. That was fun.
Yeah, Ani DeFranco in the 90s was definitely fun.
Is it something happened with her? Is she not fun anymore? Is she not?
No, she's still fun. It's just,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like some bands that just don't, well, you can't call her a band, but there's some bands that just don't age well.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Did we get some comments about
not yet. Fred Undead, who is one person in the chat I know you know, has said Gertz, many exclamation points. And then Startrek, who's a regular contributor, said, man, you've held up better than most. That's all I'll say. So Startrek is acknowledging that I'm not a young man. But getting old is better than the alternative, which is dying not old, I guess.
Yeah. You're only as old as you feel, right? And that's some advice.
Yeah, well, in that case, today at least I feel like I'm 106 years old. So, but it's still better than nothing. So, Gertz, one of the things that we always like to start talking about on the advice stream is something in your life that makes you happy right now, something that brings you joy. Would you have something to share with us of that nature?
When I was asked this question, I thought of two things, and I told myself I would just like do stream of consciousness, just go what comes up first. And the first thing that I thought of was my dog. So, I mean, we could definitely talk about dogs.
I can talk about
with
dogs.
animals.
I've never had a pet dog before. I love dogs. Never had one of my own.
I don't think it matters like what kind of animal it is. I think you know, you can talk about cat or your gerbil or your rabbit, but if it like gives you joy and purpose,
Yeah.
then
I agree. I wish that I had more pets. You know, we had 2 cats. Now, sadly, we have 1. But I wish I had a fish tank and a turtle and like a tarantula. I always wanted a pet tarantula. Spiders are so
pet
cool.
tarantula. Yeah.
Sadly, I'm not the only one that gets to decide what kind of animals live in this house, and I don't think I would win on the tarantula front.
Yeah, I would definitely have 15 dogs running around here if I was the only person.
Yeah.
Make decisions in this house also. But yeah, I've gotten into fostering and rescuing dogs in the past. Well, it started when the pandemic first happened, and I was like, I need something to take care of. I need some sort of this.
Very important to do, I think, during the pandemic.
And we ended up getting we ended up fostering hospice dogs unintentionally.
That sounds rough, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and at the same time, like, it's just so important. Like, they need someplace to go when they're dying. One was only with us for 2.5 weeks, and one was with us for like 9 months.
Wow.
So
I'm assuming that neither of them were in a very good shape when they came in either.
No, I mean, one was found as a stray, and the other one was given up because the owner, I think, was feeling overwhelmed with his health. So, but both they were both different, and both like just brought. I mean, it still brought a lot of joy at the end of their lives.
Good.
And so,
I think that's the big difference between dogs and cats. I'm not saying that cats don't have personality. They certainly do. But dogs, it's easier to get to know like the personality of a dog. Like cats are a little aloof, and dogs are just, they lay everything out on the table. Fred Undead in the chat says, when I said that must have been rough, she said RUFF rough, which I didn't realize I was making a pun at the time. So thanks, Fred Undead, for the helping me out with my pun. I appreciate it. I usually don't make puns on purpose because I don't usually think they're very funny. But this one was pretty good. Okay, so dogs. Have I met the dog? I've met one of your dogs.
She came to your house once.
That's right.
And that was when she was still foster. I hadn't officially adopted her, but yeah.
What's her name?
Her name is Hope.
That's right. Cute little doggy.
She's a little dog. I don't think I would name my dog Hope
or anything
or Faith or Love or anything of that nature. I would probably call her Ladka or Lobka, which means paw in Russian. And or sometimes I call her Bobka.
Man, Bobka. She's about the size of a Babka too.
She is about the size of a Babka.
Yeah, she's about Babka size.
A little loaf.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, her name is Hope. And we kept it because she responds to it.
That's what dogs do. They know their names.
But I mean, now that she's living in the house and we have Hope, it brings up it's a lot of jokes. We're never hopeless.
It's weird that anyone would have hope in at this stage of our society, but I guess you do right in your house.
But that's that just speaks to the importance of dogs, right? It's like they don't know what's going on, and that's that's what makes them great.
Yeah. That's their privilege. It's really privileged. They're privileged enough that they don't know. Dogs will always be okay. I almost said they always land on their feet, but that would have been a pun too far for me. So then the next question we normally go over is advice that you have that you've heard. Could be good, could be bad, could be silly. We've had a guest before that has a story about the most useless piece of advice he ever got in his life, which was hysterical. So what advice do you have to share with our audience?
I think the piece of advice, and it just occurred to me. Well, not occurred, but I learned my lesson within the past like 2 weeks, is that don't bring all of your best stuff with you on vacation.
That's good advice. I feel like there's a
stressful
story around it.
Well, I mean, it was just we were in vacation in California, and within an hour of getting the rental car, all of the belongings were stolen out of the car. So, like, the window was smashed in.
Oh my gosh. Where were you in California?
We were in San Francisco.
Everyone talks about crime in San Francisco, and the mayor of San Francisco was on Jon Stewart's show a while back, I think. And because everyone's like blaming, anyways, it's a whole political thing I don't want to get into now. That sucks. I mean, I'm so sorry.
We also live in Philly. There's, there's no shortage of crime here, but it just feels much safer for some reason. I mean, because we live here.
Yeah, so the city, like how it works. That's too bad. That's a real bummer. I'm sorry. Anything like that's totally irreplaceable that you can't ever get back?
Well, like my camera. I had a camera in the car, and it just had, there were like some pictures on there that I hadn't like transferred over from the disc that was on it.
Yeah.
So
was it like a Canon?
It was a Nikon.
Nikon. Oh man, Nikons.
It was a nice.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get into like another pandemic project was photography for me, so I bought like a nice camera.
Yeah. Well, maybe the person that stole it's going to sell that camera and do something meaningful, and that's what they need. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'm being naive, but maybe that's what they needed to get them out of whatever hole they're in, and they'll grow and become a better. I years ago I got mugged right in front of our apartment building by a kid, and he stole my phone. And I'm really sad about that still. But, sometimes I like to daydream that maybe that got him back on his feet. That's the thing you needed to do.
Yeah.
Probably not. What else?
Maybe.
It's a good advice, though, is important things. Be very cautious if you leave your house with important things. Because also, not even getting robbed, but sometimes you lose stuff. Our kid has a stuffed fox that is the most important thing to her in the world, and going anywhere without it for any period of time is not something that she's willing to do. So we were really smart, and we bought two. We have a backup. And the other day it got left in a restaurant, and she didn't notice. And my wife went back to see if it was there, and the people in the restaurant were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And but we had one stashed this side. It was cheap. So we had no gap in coverage, and immediately went and bought another backup, because I ain't dealing with that. That's one thing I'm not going to deal with. And, I guess that's advice for people, I don't know, like parents or whatever. If your kid has like a favorite stuffed animal, buy another one, stick it on a top shelf somewhere you never go.
Or anything. I remember, one of my earliest memories is leaving. My dad took me to Disney World probably when I was like 5, and leaving like my security blanket, my like blankie in the hotel, and and then we were at the airport, and I realized it, and I think he even like called to ask about it. But that's like one of my early traumatic memories.
It's so sad. And she'd had this thing since, I think we bought it before she was born. And I just, it's in a dumpster somewhere, and it makes me sad. That little guy deserved better end than that.
In psychology, they call that, they call these things transitional objects.
Oh, interesting.
Because you develop attachments to them, and then they help you through one stage of your life until the next. Yeah.
I feel like I have, like, I don't know, I get really sentimental towards things sometimes, and just thinking about, like, where is that thing now? It's in a hole in the ground somewhere. At best case scenario, it's a hole in the ground, but it's not like a whale's stomach somewhere. And go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing that I lost on this vacation fiasco was a shirt that I had since college. Circling back around to 90s. I think you and I bought it together. I think I was with you, and it was like it was a very faded blue shirt that said "Teachers are special."
I remember that shirt.
Do you?
I absolutely remember that shirt. Start Rec in the chat says, I had a lucky charm when I was young. It was a pewter Mickey Mouse dressed up as a Norseman. That's weird. Recently, I was reminded of it and found one on eBay, and I'm correcting his language here, frickin' bought it. About to be the luckiest man alive. I'm not saying we don't swear on the advice stream, by the way. Try to avoid it. We're usually not successful. But I guess Mickey dressed as a Norseman makes sense because, like, Epcot has like an international deal, so maybe they have like some kind of Scandinavian section. I don't know. But I was like, that just seems kind of white supremacist to dress Mickey like a Norseman. But now it makes sense. Not to say that Start Rec is a white supremacist. I know for a fact that he's not. Start Rec. I would love to see a picture of Viking Mickey someday. That's the thing about nostalgia, I feel like, and getting to be the age where at least you have a little bit of an expendable income, is that you have this strong desire to buy things either that you had when you were a kid that you've since lost, or things that you wanted when you were a kid and you never had. My big and what this show was up until this very episode, my big pandemic crutch was buying up old video games. And then, this stream started with me streaming old video games and giving advice to people. And then I don't think anyone wanted to see the video games anymore. So I'm just talking with people now. But man, that was such like a wonderful thing to like be able to plug in these old games and play them, and it just felt like coming home. That's just a weird way that people's brains work.
Yeah, I just also I moved my mom recently, so like a lot of the past like few months have been going through stuff in the basement, and just like finding all the stuff that I had forgotten about, and it's just so like also so difficult to get rid of anything.
And
I have like a monkey that I
it's hard. I mean, why get rid of it? If you got space, keep it. My bubby, my grandmother, passed away a few months ago, and she had lived in this house for decades and decades and decades. I don't think they moved in there like when my mom and my aunt and uncle were little, so they lived in there for more than half a century. And that house was such a big part of my growing up. I wasn't there. I don't live close by, so I wasn't there when they were like cleaning out the house. But like I get a phone call every once in a while. There's this thing that's been in the house, but we don't know what to do with it. Do you want it? We'll set it aside for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a chair in their living room that I remember my grandfather sitting in, and I remember like it's really beautiful mid-century chair, and it's got like a little footrest. And my mom called me up one day and asked if I wanted it, and I absolutely said yes. And it's in a room in our house now. And just the idea that chair that I mean, who knows when they got it. It's a very old chair. And that just the chair that I used to like sit on my grandfather's lap on, like is in my house now, gives me a lot of peace, I think.
Yeah, I guess as we get older, those become our transitional
Yeah.
object.
Yeah. And, you know, the more and more, like, there's a lot of people that aren't around anymore. Fred and Dud says, I have a toy in my wallet that I've been carrying around since middle school. It's a tiny, am I pronouncing this guy's name right? I see this written down all the time. Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Is it Vegeta? Is it Vegeta? Uh, yeah, I've seen that little guy, and I think that's really terrific too. Do I have anything that I've just been like carrying around forever with? Not really. Not really. I think I said it right. Eichel said I said it right. Startrek says Fajita. Okay, so yeah, I get it though. Like that stuff, or like there's pieces of artwork that were in my grandparents' house that we have on the wall here now, and just like I don't, it's just it's something that's so familiar to me, but it still feels out of context in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Transitional items. What other mental health stuff do you have? Like, drop some mental health bombs on me since you're a professional. What else you got? What's like? Here's a question. Here's a sincere question about mental health and music that I have. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've been working on my therapist with my therapist for a long time, and you know, about like all my health stuff and the mental health impact it has. So I've really embraced spoon theory. We've talked about that on this before. Is that something you know? Is that something you talk about before? So
I'm
like,
not familiar. Oh.
So the idea is like everybody wakes up in the morning with an amount of energy they can invest in things they're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of people say I don't have enough spoons.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
For me, and so like I talk to my therapist a lot about this a lot, and it's become a really good way for me to be able to understand where I'm at on any given day and be able to communicate to the people close to me what I'm going to be able to contribute and what kind of condition I am. Mm-hmm. I'm at. Some days I think a normal amount. Most days I have something less than that. But music is one of the things I can consistently do that like charges back up my spoons, where I feel like I did that. I listened to some music right before I went live here tonight, and hopefully that'll get me through the rest of the time we have. I think it is. Mm-hmm. And so that's been really valuable to me. I don't know what question I had about that. But that,
I mean, I think every person probably has something similar to that. I mean, music is so great because it works on different areas, and I mean, different areas of your brain get activated.
Yeah.
That's why people can remember, like, if they have like dementia or Alzheimer's, you can still remember music that you've had.
Yeah.
That you knew from when you were a teenager because it's stored in different areas in your brain.
Interesting.
And mostly like the hippocampus, which is like the memory center. So
that's where the music goes.
That's where the music goes.
Interesting. That's
then your frontal lobe is the memory center, but your emotion center is what I meant to say.
Okay.
The emotion center is in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense because I mean, music is, I think, at least for me, and I suspect for a lot of people, like the clearest way to express emotions and to make me feel like, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things in life that make me happy or make me sad or make me want to cry, but music is very consistently always getting me there. Mm-hmm. With that. Yeah. Fred and Dad says spork theory. That's why you get Startrek says this is why you need to get some fine silverware sporks like me. Startrek, do you have fine like metal sporks? Because also I need to see some picture. I need to see some image evidence of that.
There's some there's some good books that I think you would like, Jeremy. Have you ever read like Musicophilia by Oliver Sacks?
Mm-mm. Is he one of the Saxes, like the Oxycontin Saxes?
No.
Okay, good.
He was a famous neuroscientist who wrote a lot about, I mean, he did a lot of he wrote a lot. But he was also a really big music enthusiast, and he did a lot of research about how music affects the brain, and it's really cool. And it's been a really long time since I read it, but
I would like to read that. I've really been appreciating how much music can positively impact. Mental state and physical state aren't really two different things. It's hard for me sometimes to think about them as being one, but I understand that they are, for sure. There's a song that always gives me spoons. I've talked about it on the show. Well, it's an album, really, that always charges up my spoons and makes me feel, at least for a little while, really great. And that's Breakout by the Pointer Sisters. That album is always, that's just a good time. It's always a good time for everybody.
I mean, music is definitely used to trigger your emotional centers, but also there are studies where they use music to help with somebody physically.
Okay.
Like somebody who has like unsteady gait or has Parkinson's, they use music to like motivate somebody to walk and walk in time, and it helps. I mean, it helps with gait.
Yeah.
And balance. So there's some cool stuff.
StartRec says that that they gotta go for a bit, but they wanted to let you know that you seem super cool. So see you later, StartRec. We'll be around for maybe another half an hour or so, but I'm sure I'll see you around. Why don't we do a little call sign real quick, since it's been a little while. This is the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Instagram. We are live on JeremyInternational.com. If you are watching on any of those services, remember that you can contribute on the chat anytime you want to. You can just say hi or whatever. You can even say, I don't like you, Jeremy International. I don't know why you would. That seems like a waste of your time. But feel free to jump in the chat if you want to. If you just want to say hi or if you have anything to contribute. I'm here with my... I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure it is my oldest, the person I've known the longest that I'm still in communication with, that I'm not blood related to. So I guess you could say my oldest friend. Gertz. Gertz is a musician, wonderful musician, music therapist. The musical therapist, I feel like, is someone that sings to you about your feelings.
Right.
And we go ways back. So if you have questions for us, you can put it in the chat if you'd like to. You can also go to JeremyInternational.com, and there is a contact form there where you could send something anonymously if you'd like to. I'll get it right away. And then Gertz and I would discuss if you feel so inclined. I don't have any pre-prepared questions that I stole from the internet today. And at least at the moment, I don't believe I've gotten anything in. I don't believe I've gotten anything in. Let me double check through the contact form. If you're enjoying the show and you want to, throw me a couple bucks, you can also do that through JeremyInternational.com. There's a way that you can leave tips. No pressure if you don't want to. I'm not doing this for the money. If I was, I would have given up a long time ago because I never got any. I'm looking through the app that I use to manage my website. And, I have a blog. I don't usually make a big deal about it. My first entry in the blog is, I'm blogging. I don't care that you don't care. All my blog entries have 1 or 2 views, but there's one that has 14 views. It's not a lot of views by anyone's standards, but it's way more than any of the other ones. And it's just it's a link to a YouTube video, and it's just the title says, Sha Na Na is punk as fuck. And for whatever reason, I don't know what that's Googling or whatever, but that's gotten way more views than anybody else. Cause Sha Na Na is pretty, for a doo-wop group, they were pretty punk rock. Yeah. Gertz, I got into doing this just because I was performing with Church Night for so long. It was such a regular thing. And we've taken a long hiatus from that. Hopefully it'll come back someday. But I just needed something to do, and I got sick of waiting around for like an idea. So I just started streaming and see what happens. And here we are. We're still seeing what happens.
And how have things changed since you began? I mean, now, so you said today was the first episode you did too.
Yeah, I mean, the first big change was that I started to have a guest, and then otherwise it's the same. And then I just stopped playing video games. I had some fun playing video games, played some weird ones, because I have a bunch of weird, random old Japanese Nintendo games. But I was getting bored with it, and I don't know if the audience was super into it or not. What musically are you into these days? What are you listening to?
This is gonna be funny. Well, I don't know why I think it's funny. Like every time somebody has been asking me that in the past like few weeks, I like feel like I have to have a caveat. But I don't, because this artist is fucking awesome, and I have just realized that she's fucking awesome. And so I've been listening to a lot of Pink.
I love Pink. Pink is great. Pink's got some hits.
Why is what's the hesitation for?
Because I think you and I are coming from a time in a scene where pop music was frowned upon, I think
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And Pink is the same age as us, which also sort of like
that blows my mind too.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can connect to her better now than I could when I was 20.
It's not easy for me to. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I really like running. I don't make plans. I just run fast until I feel like stopping, and I walk home. Running is fun for me. I don't feel up for doing it a lot these days, but that's all I listen to when I'm running now is pop music. I listen to Pink, Robin, Katy Perry. That's what gets me through my runs. And I think that you feel that way. I feel that way too when I talk about listening to that music, because the demographic we're coming from, that wasn't like the cool music to listen to.
It wasn't. And she also came up at a time where like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and all of those.
But let me tell you, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera also have great music.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
It's just hard for us to.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to Ani DeFranco, right?
Yeah. It's because we were pretentious and snobs. And now I don't have patience. I don't have the energy to be a snob about anything anymore.
No, and like, I don't know. I've been like watching some of Pink's older shows, and it's just like the aerial stuff that she does is just insane.
Great performer.
It's great.
Yeah.
She's so hardworking, and it's awesome. Yeah, I really love it.
I'm glad that you were able to come out and be honest with us about this today, because it's been a journey for me to be the same
episode.
way. Yeah, that you like pop music. I was a secret Katy Perry fan for a long time before. I don't know if you remember this or not. When we lived with our old roommate Ian, and I was so into being like tough, like punk rock dude, I didn't want anyone to know that I was secretly listening to Morrissey all the time. And he was also trying to do that and didn't want anyone to know he was secretly listening to Bob Marley all the time. And, this is back when you had to buy CDs. And like we got our boxes switched up or something, and I opened up a box and there was a Bob Marley CD in it, and he opened up a box and there was a Morrissey CD in it, and we were busted. We were trying so hard to pretend we were something that we weren't.
Yeah.
Dumb kids.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think I had done that. Like, I mean, I was listening to Indigo Girls back then, and I will still say that I listened to Indigo Girls.
Yeah.
But, and I didn't feel like I had to hide that. But
Yeah.
that's also like not what, that's pretentious.
I feel like that was demographically acceptable.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
You're right.
I don't know. This whole idea, I don't know. I mean, I don't know a lot of people in that age group anymore. I hope that kids still don't do that. Pretend to not like things that they really like because they want to appear to be
right.
Like
if
be
you're
cool.
an Ed Sheeran fan, just fucking go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. I mean, no, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say something judgmental about it. I'm not going to. Like what you like, everybody. Unless what you like is fascism or Christian nationalism or white supremacy, don't like that. But otherwise, like the music
like what you like.
that you like.
That's good advice.
Leila, who was our guest, it looks like Leila's on Facebook, says, I think talking about Pink, she says, she literally sings a song sober upside down on a trapeze.
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of like performance that I have so much respect for sure. But yeah, when I run, I listen to oh my gosh, I gotta look it up. I can't remember what it's called now. This one Katy Perry record, and I cry when I'm running a little bit because it just makes me feel so emotional. But you know, why are we trying to pretend like we're somebody that we're not?
Right.
Why?
Well, now we're not. We're too old for that shit.
I know, it's too old. We're too old for it. And also, like, things make me happy, and it's hard to find things to make you happy. I feel like in the world we find ourselves in, and so if it makes you feel good, it makes you want to dance, makes you want to run, just go for it, man. Just do it. Oh boy, are you? What else? We had some times in college. I'm trying to think of any other like relevant stories from those days. Remember when we would crash the Helen Hayes Awards at the Kennedy Center?
Sure do.
So for a little background, Gertz and I went to school outside of Washington, D.C., and we were both theater majors. You were a theater major, right? Like that was your degree, just like me. And so in D.C., there's a very big theater community, really great theater scene in DC, and they would do annually like their version of the Tonys, like their version of the theater awards for DC's called the Helen Hayes Awards, which they would do at the Kennedy Center, which is this giant, really beautiful performing arts center in our nation's capital. And you're supposed to buy tickets, which we never did. And then after the awards ceremony, they'd have a big party with open bar and food, and you know, like celebrities for that type of community would be there. Me and Gertz and a bunch of our friends would just dress up real nice. I somehow had a tuxedo. And after the awards ceremony was over, we just get in the elevator and go to the roof and go to the party. And no one ever stopped us. And our professors were often from college were there. And they knew that we were underage and that we didn't buy tickets and weren't invited. And they never busted us. And I want to commend them. Maybe commend them for that. Maybe be like, what, we were children. What were you letting us do? But we drink for free and have a blast.
Uh-huh. And there were like B-list celebrities there.
Yeah.
We met Lisa Simpson. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. I remember that Rip Torn was there. I remember meeting Judith Light from Who's the Boss, and Rip Torn, who, you know, may rest in peace, has been in a bunch of stuff. He was a weird guy. I mean, Rip Torn was in The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie. And he was there. I wouldn't say we met him, but I saw him. I didn't talk to him. I think I was freaking out because I'm like, that's a guy that's been in a movie with David Bowie. And, but man, we used to have, that was a good time.
Yeah. I don't like, besides like getting dressed up and going, I don't have like, I can't think of like a story, but I guess that's
the story. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember very clearly seeing several of our professors there and
Yeah, I
knowing
remember
that they knew that we weren't supposed to be there, and then realizing that they weren't going to do anything about it. And just
year
thinking,
after year, this was not a one-time
no,
thing.
we did it. I mean, at some point we were old enough to drink, but we still never were invited, and we never had tickets.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't getting like wasted, so that's why they didn't.
I got wasted once or twice.
Yeah. It didn't take much, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's true. It still doesn't.
We're gonna talk about college.
Yeah, those were, I always say this. I'm sure there are people that had as much fun in college as we did, but no one had more fun. There's not possible. There wasn't enough time, I mean, except for the times when I was almost dead because I was so sick. Besides those times, it was just not possible to have more fun. We had a blast all the time. Those were some days. Are you still in touch with anybody like regularly? Me neither.
No, you're it.
Yeah, you're it.
I mean, I see people like posting things every once in a while.
Yeah, like on social media, it doesn't count.
Social media.
So you're not friends with any other people from Hillel from college? Weird. Weird.
I remember leaving that meeting and you quoting Saved by the Bell.
Did I?
I
don't remember.
There was like a Saved by the Bell episode where the like Screech's friends got together and they were talking about this, like, I don't remember what it was in context, but there was a line where one of them said, "It's a pill to give worms."
That's Kids in the Hall. That's Kids in the Hall.
Oh, damn it.
That was the Kids in the Hall movie. I remember that very well because there was a guy that sounded just like that. It's a pill that gives worms to ex-girlfriends.
All right.
Yeah, there was a guy that talked exactly. I don't, and back then we made fun of him. I don't know if that's the type of scene I want to do today, but he did talk like that. That was a fact. And, oh wait, Eichel has a question. I do have a question I want to ask, but I'm afraid to ask it. LOL. One day I will be brave enough. That's fair, Eichel. Maybe not today, because if you sent it to the website and I read it all out, everyone knew it would be from you. But maybe, in some future stream, send it to the contact form, and you can just put no@no.com, and I'll never know it was you. But you can tune in to that show, and whatever guests I have will answer the question. We'll answer the question together. That's what we're here to do, Eichel. We're here for you. Specifically, we're here for you, Eichel, because you're always here and you always support the show. And I don't know you in real life. Almost everyone else that's here, I've at least met once or twice IRL. And you are my biggest fan because you don't know who I am. There's a little piece of dirt on my screen over your name, and I'm brushing it off. That's how much I care about you, Eichel. I always have to remind myself of this. Nostalgia is something you feel for a time and not a place, because you can't go back. I just have to remind myself that, specifically with us leaving the city, and we live in a very different type of environment now than we ever have before. And, like I was performing all the time, and I'd walk down the street and people would recognize me every once in a while, and we'd go and do these big shows in front of lots of people. And I miss all of that very much, but I can't go back. Moving back to the city wouldn't bring back those times. That was a time, it wasn't a place. Mm-hmm. And, there's so much that's great about our lives today in so many unexpected ways. Having a kid's a trip, man. It's great. I didn't know, obviously we made a choice to do it. But the rewards and like how fun, I'm not going to say her name. Our kid's going to be 3 in a few months, and she's a blast. She's just a good time. We just have fun. So life is weird that way.
Sure is.
Eichel says that there's Start Rec that they also don't know. I know Start Rec, Eichel. Right now, I think I know everybody that's on Twitch at least, in real life. But I know who Start Rec is. I know who Fred Undead is. Cool. All right. Well, I think we're wrapping up on time, Gertz. This was so nice. I miss you. I'd love to co-visit you in Philly sometime soon.
Welcome.
And maybe not bring the kid. I know I just said that she was a lot of fun, but it's also fun to not have to run around after her every once in a while.
I mean, you could do both, Jeremy.
I could do both. It's not far.
It's not far.
Yeah.
And we need to get down there again.
I know. We'll make it work. This is the thing about being old friends is we can go. Not great that we do. I don't love that we do, but we can go months without talking to each other and we can pick it right back up again. Mm-hmm. That's what it means to be on the inner circle. I just made that up. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the advice stream. I will probably be back. I'm going to say strong probably be back doing this again, 9 p.m. Eastern time next Monday. I'm not feeling great these days, so we'll see, but I'm planning on it. And we'll likely have more guests. I'm going to try to hold off on the games for a little bit longer to see how I feel about that show. Although playing the games was fun. But my guests today have been Leila Hernandez, who was in the first hour. We had a really great time talking about all of the complicated mental health journeys we've all been on. And my guest in the second hour, who's still with me, is my oldest friend, Gertz. I love you, Gertz.
Love you too,
we talked about all kinds of fun stuff. Do you have any gigs coming up? Anything you want to plug for people that might find themselves in the greater Philadelphia area?
I just had one. My choir had one, and my choir is singing again on June 3rd. It's a Sunday. I don't remember where it is.
What's the name of the choir? Does it have a name?
The choir I'm in is called Anna Crucis.
Anna Crucis Choir.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the Philly area, check out the Anna Crucis Choir. That's fun to say.
Yeah, Anna Crucis, and then there's another thing I'm doing called the Rise Choir, which is another like that. Just meets once a month, but it's a lot of fun too.
If we did this again, Gertz, could we make it work where you could play a song?
Sure.
Okay. That sounds like a fun thing to do. I know so many great musicians. I would love to have them.
Yeah.
Do some music.
Variety.
And then do some tap dancing. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, Gertz. This, once again, has been the advice stream. I don't think I need to say that again. And have a good night. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I will see you probably next week.